Okay, so let's go through some of these exceptions to the warrant requirement. These are times when you don't need a warrant to do a search if you're a police officer. So one is plain view or open fields, right? This is the idea if the police are allowed to be where they are and they can see evidence of crimes, then they can search and seize it, right? So and they can kind of uh, make these things happen. They can manufacture a situation, right? So if they want to see what's in your apartment, they can come knock on your door to say, "Hi, we're just doing a sweep of the neighborhood to like make sure everyone's feeling safe." I don't know. Knock on the door, you open it, they see the drug paraphernalia there on the table behind you. Boom, now they've seen it, right? Um, Obviously, they can do Terry stops and pat you down. They have to have some articulable suspicion of why they would stop you for a Terry stop. But just patting you down, they're allowed to do, right? Um, I have a clear cereal container here, right? I told you a couple lectures ago that if it's in a container, you've got a high level of high expectation of privacy, so they need a warrant to search it. But if they can see your drugs inside, this is just cereal. If they can see your drugs inside the container, then clearly they can open that up and get those drugs, right? They generally have to use their normal senses, so they couldn't use like a special like heat detecting radar to see where people are in the house, unless they had a warrant. But courts have allowed things like binoculars, so like they can look from across the street into your window. So it is kind of an accentuation of their ability to see, but it's not like super technical and fancy. Anyone can get binoculars. Um, if there's a helicopter flying over your house, that's doesn't need a warrant. Whatever they can see down. Though many courts have said that if they could get a drone that goes like into your backyard and looks through your back door window, that would need a warrant, right? Because they're going into a place where you would expect no one would be able to look into, right? Um, what if they have a canine officer, a dog officer, and he walks around your car and sniffs for drugs? Is that a search? And this is one of the reasons why they call them officers and not just dogs. They're not a tool, they are an officer. And the idea is no, that's the dog's normal senses. They're allowed to just, use their own senses to find drugs. That's not a search. So if it's in plain view, plain sight, plain smell, I guess, for the dog, it is fine to search, right? All right. Exception number two, exigent circumstances. This is when speed is required to protect something, right? To preserve evidence. Like the officer smells marijuana and is there to arrest you for having a marijuana distribution plant. And all of a sudden they see smoke coming from the backyard and they realize, oh my God, they're burning the field. They're burning all their marijuana in a big bonfire. They can then go into the backyard to protect the evidence from being destroyed, right? They hear the toilet flushing or something, right? So they can go in to preserve evidence. They can also go into your house to respond to emergencies. They hear gunshots inside, they hear a scuffle inside. They can go in to protect life. And then it turns out that someone is committing a crime in there. They can arrest you for that crime. They can search that area because of the crime. Um, the one thing you see on TV shows a lot for exigent circumstances is when officers are in hot pursuit. So someone runs into a building to escape the officers, and the officers, bust out of the door and run into the building to chase them. That only works if the person is suspected of committing a felony or a very serious misdemeanor. There was a case a few years ago where someone was evading the police because they had run a red light or something, and they went to their house and opened the garage and jumped in the garage and closed the garage, and the police busted down the door and went in to arrest the person. Um, that is not a valid arrest or search because that was just for running a red light, right? That was a misdemeanor at best. So you can't search someone's house, go in and arrest them based on a misdemeanor if you're using the hot pursuit exigent circumstances, right? Get a warrant. Um, Number three exception was consent. So if an officer says, "Hey, can I search your trunk?" as they pull you over, or "Can I come in and search your house?" Um, if you say yes, they don't need a warrant anymore, right? The police don't have to tell you that you can say no. Um, they can try to pressure you into saying yes, but I'll tell you the bright line rule just as a citizen, never say yes. There's no reason for you to say yes. And it can't be, it's not evidence of your guilt to say no. You're just exercising your constitutional rights, right? You do not have to consent to any sort of searches of your property. Um, what if the person who gives consent doesn't actually have authority? Let's say you and your girlfriend go out on a date night and you leave the babysitter at home to take care of your kids. And the police come to the door and say, "Can we search the house, ma'am?" And the babysitter says, "Yeah, I guess so. Come on in." Right? Well, she didn't have authority to let people come into your house and search it, but the police might not have known that. So if they reasonably thought the person who was giving consent had authority to give consent, it's kind of like the good faith exception, right, to a mistake in the warrant. As long as they had good faith that the person they were talking to had the ability to consent, and the authority to consent, then the search is going to be good, right? But let's say, the person is your roommate and they come into your apartment and you've got like kind of a common area and your door is closed and the roommate's never gone in there. They don't have permission to go in there. Um, and they even tell the police, you're welcome to search the kind of common area, but I don't, I don't have permission to go into her room. Um, and the police go in anyway because you gave consent to search the apartment. Well, clearly, she told you she didn't have permission to go into that room, right? So they can't search that room based on the consent. All right, a search incident to arrest. If you are arrested, lawfully arrested, the police can search what's called your wingspan, which is the room right around you. This came from a case called California versus Chimmel, where the police went to this burglar's house looking for loot. They arrested the burglar, and then they spent like an hour searching his house trying to find the things he had stolen. And the court said, no, all that is suppressed. You did not have a warrant to search his entire house. And this is where they developed the rule called the wingspan rule, which said you could have searched the coffee table where he was sitting, the couch where he was sitting, his wingspan. And the reason you can search that is it's for officer safety or to prevent, destruction of evidence in the moment. But you can't search other rooms. Um, there was another case called Riley v. California that kind of confirmed this because the police had arrested someone and the person had like they were driving on a suspended license, right? And the police searched the person's phone thinking the phone's in their wingspan, so I can search this, right? Um, and they found in the phone evidence that this person was part of a gang. So it was gang affiliation evidence. And so they arrested them for being part of this gang. Um, and the police or the courts agreed with the defense that this was not within the wingspan, even though it was within their physical wingspan. The purpose of the wingspan exception is to protect officer safety and preserve evidence. And the phone digital data is not going to hurt the officers, and they could have just put the phone in a plastic bag and gotten a warrant to search it, right? And so the wingspan exception only works if it's to like preserve evidence that's about to be destroyed or to protect the officer's safety, looking for a gun nearby, etc. All right. Number five, automobile searches. If they have probable cause that your car contains some sort of contraband, they can search your car without a warrant. Why do we allow this? Um, because one, the car can drive away, right? And so we're worried that it will leave the scene. Um, they have to have probable cause, right? So let's say they have information that you are transporting drugs. They can probably search any part of your car looking for those drugs. They can probably tear apart doors. But let's say they have information that you are trafficking a sex victim, right? Sex trafficking. They probably can't search your glove box looking for the girl that you've sex trafficked, right? They can search your trunk, but not your glove box, right? So the probable cause, it shows where they can search, whatever the probable cause is. All right. All right. 20 seconds. Last one is border searches. This is big in the news right now. Basically, there's less expectation of privacy the closer you get to the border of our country because we're worried about contraband coming in and out of our country, right? So this includes airports and any sort of border around the country. It's 100-mile border is what the Supreme Court said, right? So pretty much two-thirds of Americans live within 100 miles of a border, right? It's a huge number of America lives within 100 miles of a border. They only need reasonable suspicion to stop you, but they can only be searching for evidence of immigration or federal crimes. So it can't just be for any crime. These kind of searches have to be basically for immigration and customs control purposes. Okay, stop there for today.